Hi, I'm Adam Unsworth, Managing Director at Plastic Card Services. The company was formed in 1993 by Tim Holt and Rob Nichols, Tim Holt still being the same private owner. We're a small to medium enterprise with just under 50 staff and a turnover of about £5.5 million. We're based in Macclesfield in Cheshire, in the north of England, and we're a manufacturer. We manufacture from our facility here where we produce plastic cards and smart cards. We also have a card personalisation bureau in support where we're personalising cards, putting barcodes on, names, numbers, QR codes, encoding magnetic stripes, right the way through to direct mailing and fulfilment where we'll personalise letters, attach the card onto a letter, drop it into an envelope and mail it through to people's doors. So quite a unique offering, there's not many people do it in the UK. Yeah, and specialists in what we do and very experienced along with that as well. We use a range of materials to produce the cards, predominantly eco-degradable plastic along with 100% recycled plastic, but also board as well. So the company was formed by Tim Holt and Rob Nichols, who were made redundant in the 90s and started off with very little actually, just a Yellow Pages, which was the internet of its day. And they spotted a gap in the card market, so they literally hammered the phones and drummed up as much attention as they possibly could. But we're very service-based. They were a card broker back in those days, so it was all about being quick and helpful. Very quickly they established that they needed some kit of their own in order to meet those kind of tight deadlines and to achieve those goals of being flexible. So started to buy kit, which they operated from the garage. And then we've been through a number of premises over the years. There was above a shoe shop on a precinct for a while, right the way through to where we are today, where we're on a 30,000 square foot campus here in Macclesfield, where we've got all of the in-house capability to produce up to 150 million cards a year. So it's come an awful long way. I was going to say in a short time, but we've been trading nearly 30 years. So yeah, a lot's changed. I mean, I've been here 20 years and I've seen the company grow as I've developed with the company. And you know, we've gone from very small sort of personalisation equipment into full-blown high volume car production. So, you know, we like to think of ourselves as a major player these days. Initially, I think, whilst we have always exported, in the early days it was more reactive if we had an inquiry that just happened to be from overseas. But it was always in the back of our minds that we should be exporting. It was just really trying to find the right fit. In 2008, we were introduced to a lady called Mette Jacobsen, who's based in Denmark. And after probably a 2-year period of trying to explore the market with Mette and her company logo card, we established that we were good opportunities, we were a good fit, we were competitive, and there wasn't a huge amount of competition in that particular territory, but there was a big demand for our product. So as I say, after a lot of time and investment, probably 2 or even 3 years, yeah, we started to export en masse into that particular territory, and really it's just grown from there. We export all over the world actually, but our 2 main areas of focus are firstly Scandinavia, and in particular Denmark. We're just coming up to our 10-year anniversary with our agent logo card in Denmark, and the relationship initially started in 2008 but really gained traction in 2010, 2011. But yeah, so we're predominantly Scandinavia and Denmark, but also Republic of Ireland. Obviously there's no language barriers, it's relatively close geographically. Predominantly those 2 areas, but as I say, we do export to weird and wonderful places, America and Australia and all over the world, but they tend to be more ad hoc. Our focus is predominantly Scandinavia and in Ireland. Well, when trading in any territory, be it your own or internationally, then there are always challenges, it goes without saying, and we've learned along the way. As I say, we've been exporting in anger for probably 10 years now, and there's been some steep learning curves. I think the first one that caught us off guard was foreign exchange. We took on a major contract, and we agreed to trade in their local currency, which is Danish kroner, which, if you look at the history of the kroner at that moment in time, hadn't shifted in 3-4 years. And unfortunately, as soon as we started the contract, then the pound plummeted and we were left holding the baby. So we learned very quickly that, you know, ways around that to forward exchange, or more recently we've been lucky enough to agree terms in GBP, our local currency, and you'd be surprised actually if you ask. A lot of companies are willing to trade in your currency just because they're international corporations who often buy from all around the world, so it's always worth asking that question. Language is an obvious one. Language and local culture. Again, we try to pick our territories where people speak English, but what has really helped, particularly in Scandinavia, is working exclusively with an agent who is a local agent, obviously speaks the local language, understands the local business etiquette, and the local business practice and the way things work, and she's our sort of go-between, if you will. Quite often that works really well, particularly with an introduction to a new client where there may be some trepidation about dealing with an international supplier and importing from their perspective. You know, there can be some sort of nerves around that. With somebody locally who can speak the language, it really helps to to put them at ease and to allay any fears that they may have. More recently, can't go anywhere without hearing about Brexit, and it has been a challenge, if I'm completely honest. Both in terms of import, we buy a lot of our raw materials from the Far East and from Europe as well, but more so export, where for as long as I can remember, exporting has been very straightforward. You package up the product much like you would to a UK customer, and dispatching is really straightforward. Suddenly we've gone from that to quite complicated, convoluted paperwork and a process that really no one has been particularly familiar with, and that's not just us as suppliers, but also the couriers themselves and equally the customers at the other end. So again, quite a steep learning curve that we've all had to come through, but we're 9 months in now and I think we've got our head around it, and so things are running relatively smoothly. But the support out there, we've utilised that where we can to get through that challenge. Another challenge, or another, I suppose, pitfall can be accounting, in as much as debt recovery. I think it's massively important to stay focused on your core business practices, and just because you've won an exciting new international client, don't let your guard down and become too relaxed in that regard. You need to go through the due diligence of credit checking, and if you were to charge an invoice based on pro forma upfront payment locally, why wouldn't you do that abroad? And it's important that you follow those steps. Again, we've been through situations where we've been slightly more relaxed because we're desperate to win a contract that's overseas because we know it'll lead on to other work, and maybe just being a little bit naive in that regard. So quite simple really, just stick to what you do in the UK wherever possible, and that way you won't get burnt. In terms of product expansion, there is little or no e-commerce in our industry, so we feel like we're the first to market in our plastic card hub, which is our web to print offering, which allows customers to go online, get a price instantly, design their own card or upload existing artwork, proof that artwork, and then check out through a payment module that then automatically sends an order through to our press, and we're able to turn around the finished product very quickly and dispatch within 5 working days. As I say, we're first to market with that, and delighted with the way it's turned out. Not a simple process. There are so many attributes on a plastic card when you think about card personalisation and barcoding and magnetic stripe encoding. So it's a complex system, but we're delighted with the way it's turned out, and we're seeing great success from there, not just locally but internationally. And what we found is lots of payment providers and gift card solution providers are interested in being able to offer something that's digitised, which is online to their customer base. So we've had great uptake in terms of those kind of systems providers white labelling our web to print portal. So we've seen great expansion in Scandinavia once again, but more recently we're looking at a system that we're hoping will be rolled out in the United States, which obviously would be very big for us. So yeah, I think it's about being innovative and different with our approach. The card industry is quite slow moving actually when you look at how things have remained pretty consistent over the last 30 or 40 years. So we're always thinking of what we can do that's a bit different, and obviously this system, this web to print offering, is exactly that. In terms of new territories, I've spoken about our success in Scandinavia, and our aim is to try and replicate that in as many territories as possible. Most recently we spent a lot of time researching Republic of Ireland, and we worked very closely with the DIT in order to try and get a foothold in that particular territory. So they're a very good fit. There's lots of things that work for us there in terms of the need for the product, in terms of the customer base, which is expanding, it's a growing economy, the competitive, the competition out there we can hold our own with. And so that's been a very good fit. They speak the same language, obviously in Ireland, and so we've enjoyed quite a lot of success there as well. I think it's important to get your business fully established, and your business practices, your offering, your service, your products, whatever it is that you're selling, make sure that what you're doing in your home domestic territory is working very well, that you're confident with what you're producing and the service that you're providing. Once you're happy with that foundation, at that point I think you're ready to go out and start exporting. I don't see any huge mileage in trying to export when what you're doing locally isn't working. So make sure you've got a solid structure to work from. But once you're in that position and you're confident with what you're doing, then The next stage is to establish which territory works for you. A scattergun approach just doesn't work. Obviously, there's lots of places you can go and try and sell, but it's really important to focus on one or two initially. And that's about doing your sort of due diligence and your research, just making sure that the opportunities are there for you. Is there a need for your product? Are you competitive? What does the competition look like? How easy is it to export into that particular territory? And so make sure that the fit's right. Once you've established that that's in a good place, then it's all about grit, determination and hard work. Things aren't going to happen overnight. It needs to be a prolonged approach. The DTI are always there to help. We've worked on a regular basis with the DTI and they're a fantastic organisation, particularly when you're starting in export, but not just exclusively when you're a new starter in export. You know, even well-established companies will still go to the DIT for lots of support. So utilise their service, commission OMIS reports if you can, which will take a look into the competition and market opportunities in a particular territory. And then just roll the sleeves up and work hard. It's as simple as that. Beyond that, I think take care with currency and foreign exchange. It can be very easy to get swept along with the excitement of a new international contract win, but don't let your guard down. Trade on your standard terms where possible. Look to trade in your local currency where you can to avoid any nasty surprises with foreign exchange or forward exchange, so you can forward exchange your currency in order to ensure that you're not exposed to any fluctuation in the currency exchange. And then finally, try and find an agent on the ground. If you can find salespeople or sales agents in that territory that can speak the language and understand local practices, then that is a massive help, and it's proved really successful for us and Logo Card in Scandinavia in particular. We're in our 10th year with those guys, and it's grown from strength to strength, so much so that we're now exporting around 10% of our turnover.